General.
Good evening, Musha. Good evening, Zambia. Good evening, Chiwempala.
Good evening. It's a sad day.
It's a very sad day. The 17th, Thursday, the 17th of June, 2021. It is a sad day for Zambia, and I think it's a sad day for Africa as well. It's a very, very sad day for our country because we've lost one of the founders, I think one of the key founders of our country, Zambia. And for me, I've lost a commander-in-chief. I've lost a father. And I think I've lost an uncle. And I've lost a mentor as well. So it's a sad day for me.
I used to think about how Kenneth Kaunda will be remembered, and I've written something about Kenneth Kaunda, and I never thought that this death would hit me like this, General. I never imagined.
It's sad, Musha. Where I'm sitting right away, I'm looking at his handkerchief, his white handkerchief. I think I referred to his white handkerchief during one of the broadcasts. That was the last day I saw KK. He signed this handkerchief and he said, he wrote a message which says, "To Norman, a committed servant of Zambia, may the Almighty God continue to bless you and give you courage to do outstanding service for Zambia." And he signed KD Kaunda. So,
how are you doing?
So this is a reminder for me.
How are you doing, General?
I'm okay. I'm okay, Musha, but it's difficult. It's a difficult day.
I never thought it would hit me this hard. The man had lived a very long life at 97.
Yeah.
Far beyond most of his contemporaries, far beyond most of his friends. It was a full life.
It was a full life, Musha, and some of us were privileged to see him in the 70s, the energy in the man. Some of us were privileged to see during very difficult times when we were being bombed. Some of us who saw him during very happy times in his life. When he was arrested, when he was sent to Mkoeko, and some of the memorable times for me was driving this old man, this former president, this mentor of mine, in Scotland, being with him for a month. I flew him to Scotland for a month, driving him every day, showing him Scotland. And I remember the day when I took him to Dr. Livingstone Center, where Dr. Livingstone was born. That was the day I saw the man break down, because he says that place reminded him of his father, who was a Church of Scotland minister. So that is the Kaunda I remember. I remember the Kaunda, the commander-in-chief, Kaunda, the freedom fighter, Kaunda, the man of discipline, and he had no play. He was a man of discipline, a man of commitment to his country and to his continent. Guys, This is the man who liberated Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa, Angola, Mozambique, with people like Julius Nyerere, with people like Samora Machel, Mugabe, and all these people. These people were in Zambia because of KK. He could have said no, but he chose to support the African people. He said Zambia is not independent until all these African countries are independent. There's no point of us calling ourselves independent. So that's the man. That's the man. That's the man. The nationalist, the Pan-Africanist, and a statesman. So that is the KK I remember today, and that's the KK I think I want to remember. I also want to remember the difficult times he went through, especially that time when he was sent to Mkoweko. That was a very heartbreaking time for me.
A man who lives that long definitely makes mistakes, yeah, like we all do. And his legacy is going to be slightly complicated. He lived a very long life. And there will be those that will be, because it's not like somebody passes away and there is no one to talk about him. There are several pieces to his legacy.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
Kenneth David Kaunda was a human being. He was not an angel. He was a human being, just born from a human being, from a mother and a father.
Right.
The mother, Helen, and the father was a missionary. He could have made mistakes. He made a lot of mistakes in his life. He could have stepped on a lot of people's toes. But this man was a person who was committed to Zambia. This is a man who was not selfish. If there's anything they can blame him for, they will never blame Kaunda to say he stole from his people. Never.
Right.
He made other mistakes, but he was not a selfish person. He never stole. He was not corrupt. So he put his people first. The rest of the mistakes, the policies which we had in UNIP, the fights he had, some of these fellow leaders, the differences they had with you, those are normal things which in life. The only thing I can say was he was not an angel. He was a human being.
One of the things that are going to be known about Kenneth Kaunda was he's perhaps one of the few leaders that were quite emotional. If anything, I have my dissertation right now on church and state in Zambia has a paragraph. The dissertation is out for marking on Kenneth Kaunda being the weeping prophet.
Yeah.
He was extremely an emotional guy, and I think I'm going to remember him for that. Like, he went to the OAU, Organization of African Unity,
yeah,
and he broke down right on the podium and started crying and weeping for Rhodesia, for South Africa, for all these countries.
Yeah. He was such a very emotional man. I remember him breaking down in Feira when we were bombed. They bombed our friends using the napalm bomb for the first time, and the commander-in-chief arriving there and looked at what had happened. The people who had died, people who had been burnt to ashes. You know, KK broke down, and that's the KK. But he said on that day that these people have not died in vain. We will liberate Rhodesia. We will liberate South Africa, he said. And he meant it. But you are very right, Munsha was such an emotional person. And he meant every word. And And I will remember him for that. He's such an emotional person, but at the same time, such a loving person as well.
Right. Now, I'm playing Tiende Pamosi in the background, but I also want to make sure that you and several of our Bakwetu friends are visible. And so we are asking if those people that are listening to us, they find the song is a little bit too high. If it's too high, we are going to switch it off. But we want it to be playing. And I think it is him singing the Tiende Pamosi song that I'm playing right now. You've mentioned one of the most controversial legacies of President Kaunda. Not really controversial, but it has to do with his connection to the Church of Scotland. His father was a Church of Scotland missionary, who established the first Christian church in the first Church of Scotland in Chinsali. And I think that the Church of Scotland roots were very deep in Kenneth Kaunda. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think I've already mentioned that, Munsha. In 2009, I hosted Kaunda in Scotland for a month.
Right.
And he came here because he was supposed to address the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. By then, I was already on the board of the Church of Scotland, and they wanted Kaunda to address the Church of Scotland's General Assembly to talk about the history of Zambia, the history of his father, the role of his father in promoting Christianity in Zambia. Right. And I remember driving him to Dr. Livingstone, where Dr. Livingstone was born, in a town called Blantyre, just about an hour and a half from my home. And when I took him there, he saw the museum, which we are actually renovating now. And one of the things I really wanted to have was to have KK's voice in that museum, but he's now died, so I won't have it. And when he saw where Dr. Livingstone was brought up, and he started telling the story of his father, the man broke down. So that root, that deep rootedness in the Church of Scotland. And for me, hearing that from the man, and also for me, reading the story of Dr. Livingstone and the missionaries in Zambia, it was such a fascinating time to be with KK. I think that's one of the best times I've ever had with KK, was that 1 month with me here in Scotland and visiting the historical places in Scotland, visiting the church and talking everywhere. He was lecturing everywhere, including the university. He was lecturing at the university, telling the students there African history, which was fantastic. So it was such a privilege to have him here.
This is not just a funeral for Zambia at all. It is a funeral for Southern Africa, but it is also a funeral for Malawi. Now, I know that there is something that we try to cover about Kenneth Kaunda's own history. It's as if any Malawian connection is filthy. It's not supposed to be mentioned. It's not supposed to be connected. But this is also Malawi's loss, because Kenneth Kaunda is also of Malawian descent. So he's a Zambian, he's a Malawian and all that. How do you navigate through all these identities in this one great man?
This man was born in Zambia. His father was Malawian, but his mother was Zambian. So he was brought up, born in Zambia. And you cannot run away from your roots, your father's roots in Malawi. And he never hid that at all. And the truth is, this is a funeral for Zambia. This is a funeral for the whole continent of Africa. Because he is a man who was one of the founders of the African Union, the OAU. He is a man who flew to the UK to come and negotiate for Zambia's independence. So this is the funeral, not for Zambia, not for Malawi, it's for the whole continent. And, you know, I was trying to bring General Masheke this evening. I was trying to bring in VJ Mwanga this evening. But, you know, there's such an emotional time tonight. And remember, these are old people. They're older than me. But both of them were telling me, it's very difficult to describe this man. But yes, you're right, Musha. This is a big loss for the whole continent, including Malawi. And for me, it's a very, very big loss for Zambia, because he is a man who helped to liberate our country. Of course, we should not forget on this day people like Grey Zulu. We should not forget people like Mainza Chona. We should not forget the Winner brothers. We should not forget Justin Chimba. We should not forget Kamanga Chitandika. We should not forget Mungoni Liso. All these are the heroes who helped fight for independence. We should not forget Nkumbula himself. But this is the last man out of that fantastic group of our freedom fighters. And those of us who were lucky to have met some of these people, Mungoni Liso, Kamanga Chitandika, Grey Zulu, Mainza Chona, Mundia, you know, all these people were great people. Justin Chimba, I remember working with Justin Chimba in Chipata and telling me the whole story of what happened during our freedom fighter, what happened when they differed with Kaunda. These are our heroes. And I think for me, this is the last line of our heroes gone. That's the last route. The rest of these people, yes, they are there. We still have people like General Masheke and all these other people, but people like Mama Kankatsa, all those freedom fighters are gone now.
With the passing of Kaunda, it really feels like the cover. Like all this time, we were experiencing whatever we were experiencing, but somehow we were thinking or feeling like he's there. He was old, but we were comfortable. He's there. It's okay. We were joking about it. We were pointing fingers at him. We were saying, you are responsible for this, you're responsible for the other. And suddenly today, it feels like a cloud has lifted.
Yeah. A cloud is lifted off Zambia. You know, for those who really didn't have the chance of meeting this man, it's just sad, because he is a man who fought so much with his friends, so much for our country. He is a man who was not selfish. And to me, today, it's like a huge cloud is lifted over Zambia. And for the politicians, the politicians of today who don't know where we're coming from, I hope they're sitting down and reflecting today. You know, what really, really annoyed me was to hear that ZNBC failed to announce his death until very late, at 19 hours tonight. I was very annoyed about that. I was really, really annoyed. What also annoyed me was the statement from the president. It really annoyed me. I know this is not a day for politics, but it's really, really annoyed me. Because I expected the president to have been briefed of the condition of the old man and never traveled to Kaoma. Or he could have traveled to Kaoma, but immediately come back home to issue a statement. So it's not a day to really point a finger, but those two incidences have really annoyed me. I don't know what other Zambians think, but for me, to hear of KK's death in South Africa and BBC and not ZNBC was, I think, a slap on my face.
You are on.
Good evening.
Kenneth Kaunda.
How are you?
I know. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. When did you last meet the old man? Was it 2009 when he came to Scotland?
I have never met him, and I was just live on my page, and I was saying, somebody asked me if there was anybody who you would love to interview, who would it be? And I said, Kaunda, without even blinking. obviously. I mean, who else would you want to interview? Like, come on. But, you know, when I was growing up, my father was a diplomat. And so wherever we went to represent the country. And when people would ask me my name and where I'm from, they would say two things. Firstly, oh, KK. Second thing, Chipolopolo.
Yeah.
Those were the only two things that they would ever say to me. And I used to wonder, like, I went to Rhodes Park Primary School back in the 80s. And I used to wonder, there would be this bus coming in with students. And I'm like, why are these people always in a bus together? Years later, I realized those were the children of ANC. I had no idea. I didn't know that we were giving shelter to the ANC. And this is why we were always known as a peaceful country. And that's why where we are today is so it's not just hard for us as Zambians, but it's hard for the world because they're like, Zambia? You mean Zambia? And you're like, yeah, Zambia. I'm like, what happened? We've always been this peaceful country because he made it his ambition. He made it his mission to free everybody around us. And that is just so honorable. My father comes from the Kaunda generation. And I do recall seeing my dad at the dining table writing. And I'll say, Dad, what are you writing? And he'll say, I'm writing a speech for the president. Like, you are the president? You know, so I would just want to encourage Zambians to really fall in love with Zambia. To make it your mission to understand the intent of our independence.
Mm-hmm.
Make it your mission. Just study it. Find out, what were they thinking? What were the conditions like that they really said, we cannot take this anymore. We deserve better. And are we anywhere near what they thought we would be by now? And if we're not, then we have an individual decision to make to say, I'm going to be that difference. I'm going to be that voice. I'm not going to follow the crowd. I'm going to stick with the birthright that we have as Zambians. And that was just all I wanted to share. Also, one other thing I want to say, 24th of October, 1958 was the day when they decided to call us Zambia. So I just thought I would put that out there.
Thank you so much, Multa. And one of KK's favorite teaching was love your neighbor the way you love yourself. Yeah,
it absolutely was. Yeah,
that is the lesson. Young man, be a patriot. Young man, love your neighbor. Learn to love your neighbor the way you love yourself.
Yeah.
And the question is, are we really following this teaching of this great man? I know it's a biblical teaching, but he practiced it.
Yeah.
KK did practice what he meant.
Yes, he did.
Loved his neighbor. And I think, I don't know, Munsha, I don't know. Really, for me, it's that word, it's that sentence put together. Love your neighbor the way you love yourself. And be a patriot. He said, love your country, young man. Be prepared to die for your country. That's what I learned from him.
Right. So could you, is your name Mumbi or?
My name?
Yes,
Mwansa.
Mwansa.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Can you stay on? How long can you stay on?
For about 10 minutes.
For about 10 minutes? Please stay on.
Okay.
Okay, so we do have several of our friends that want to continue pouring our tribute to Kenneth Kaunda, and so I'm going to bring some of them here. Today we want to restrict how long we speak so that we can give a chance to as many people as possible to share with us their story about Kenneth Kaunda. Personally, I thought about it and I imagined that this is the way I was going to mourn the passing of Kenneth Kaunda. I'm completely broken. Um, he's 97, so I thought it would just be one of those days. No, it's not.
Mhm.
No, it's not.
Yeah. It's a difficult day. It's a difficult day, Zambia. It's a very difficult day. And I just wish, I wish our leaders in Zambia, the president, the opposition leaders, all of them could sit down today and reflect and wake up tomorrow having thought through what we are going through now, and asking themselves, is this the Zambia KK and these friends wanted? I just wish they could sit up. I'm glad that our president listened. Quick advice that we suspend all the campaigns. I think that's the best way we can honor KK and sit down and reflect.
Right.
Is this the Zambia which Kaunda and his friends wanted to build?
Right. Yeah, it's very important. And when you say your president, you mean Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who suspended campaign.
Yeah.
He got news very early, went to Facebook, announced his condolences to the family, calmed the nation, and then in a subsequent post, he then suspended his party's campaigns.
Yeah. He was the first one to announce, and followed by a statement that we're canceling all our campaigns. The vice president, who was in Chipata, has traveled back to Lusaka. I think this is a time for us to reflect.
You're right. Ruth?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Kenneth David Kaunda.
Oh my God. I just don't know where to start from. But for I was young at the time, but I used to hear my mother talk about Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. He had cousins in Kasama. One of them had a pharmacy, Mr. Nyerenda. I'm sure his children, if they are listening, they should know the Nyerendas. They had a pharmacy in Kasama. My grandfather, he was Mr. Nyerenda, so he was related to them. So my mother was young at the time, but she tells stories that they used to hide Mubutala during, the struggle at my grandfather's farm. At one point, they were arrested with Wakapwepwe, and my grandmother was also taken, and she was pregnant. So for me, hearing the stories as I'm growing up, and eventually coming to see the man, being educated for free, it's just a deep hole in my heart, It's a huge loss,
It's a huge loss. Thank you, Ruth, for sharing with us your thoughts about Kenneth Kaunda. We're going to bring up somebody else now. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for sharing with us your memories. Jonathan Sikombe.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening, Jonathan.
Kenneth Kaunda, yeah, it's quite a heavy day. I met him a few times. My grandfather was also in UNIP. He was in the central committee. He was governor in.
I remember him very well. I remember Skombe very well.
And yeah, so one thing that struck me was, this thing of looking up to your grandfather. And then one time he took us to State House, and the way he was greeting Kaunda, and we were just amazed that he's greeting somebody very, very great. It was just a different atmosphere. And many years later on, I moved to South Africa. I was working in my first job. I moved here. I was setting up the Electoral Commission for South Africa in 1998, 99. And I'm sitting in my office there, just working as a junior person. I was very, very young. And he walks in with Mandela into the office, being shown around where we're working. Now, I'm the only Zambian there. So he walks in and they're showing him around. So I greeted him in Bemba. It was such a nice atmosphere. He was very, very loving. And he took time talking to me at my desk. And everybody was amazed that, such a person who's such a very respected leader stood up and at my desk and talked to me for quite a long time. That was very, 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 very charming. And one more thing I would like to share is around that time, one time I got sick. I went to a hospital, to Olivedale Clinic. And these hospitals, those days, it was very rare for you to find like a black person at the hospital. So when I was admitted, even the people who were sweeping around, there was no like black people. But when they saw me and then they started asking me, where are you from? Because they were very, very surprised the black person came to that hospital. Then I mentioned that, I'm from Zambia. Immediately, they started bringing people, introducing me to, this is Kaunda's person. The treatment just changed. It was such a lovely stay there. I only went there just to remove my wisdom tooth. But during that time, just the kind of treatment that they gave me was such a powerful treatment. It changed the atmosphere because everybody now respected me. They would bring me food and they would say, bring food for Kaunda's child. And it was just, you mentioned you're from Zambia and they take you as some sort of royalty. And they were not black people. They were not black people. They literally serve you until I left. And then I met him a few times. He used to come whenever he was in Johannesburg. Sometimes he would pop into Rema Church. He would come and worship with us there. So we've lost a person. But one thing I'd like to mention, however you try and remember him, you should also remember the kinds of fears he went through. Because during the time he was ruling, and this was the reality of things, there were so many people who were trying to remove him because he chose a certain path to try and fight for freedom for the whole of Africa.
Yeah.
One of the ways they were trying to fight him was to try and sponsor certain people within Zambia to stand up against him and remove him. If you think about that, there were so many forces trying to remove him from power, which might have looked like a genuine way, but they were trying to remove him for so many years because he was fighting for the rest of Africa. So even when you look at the way he was fighting for Zimbabwe, the way he was fighting for Namibia, the way he was fighting for Mozambique, there were so many imperialist forces that were trying to fight to remove him from power. And there are certain decisions that he made out of certain fears he had for a lot of Zambians, that they will be at the mercy of imperialist forces if I do not stand up for them.
I think we want to, Jonathan, thank you for that contribution, but we want to focus on the immediate feelings of how you're processing the passing of Dr. Kaunda. Because there will always be different political views about Kenneth Kaunda. And he was a controversial politician. So we want to appreciate that, but we also just want today to reflect on how we are processing his death.
And also his courage. You should think about his courage. He was a very courageous man.
Yeah. Somebody also come and then rebut what you were saying, and then we begin looking at this mixed legacy. But how are we experiencing his death? And thank you for sharing with us those warm moments when he walks up to your desk, when people treat you very well because of him and his contribution. So thank you for sharing Kaunda's story with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. He was a courageous man. You're right. Because and we know the people were trying to fight him, but he stood his ground because of his principles. And one of the books you can read is The High Price of Principles. If you can buy that book, and you understand why the man stood for what he stood.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Jerome Kanika.
Good evening, Councilman. Good evening, General. Good evening. I forgot the name for Mwanza.
Good evening, Jerome. How are you? How are you feeling in Zambia today, Jerome?
Okay, the death of Kenneth Kaunda has hit me very bad in such a way that I used to admire the way Kenneth Kaunda was or has been talked about by a lot of people. When he was the president, I was very young, but I came to know more about Kenneth Kaunda through reading a lot of literature about him. And some, even speaking right now, have a literature for Kaunda, the book which he wrote himself, saying a letter to my children.
My children. Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, it's a nice book where he dedicated this book to his children and also to the young people in Zambia. How he discussed about the rule of law, how he discussed about how to face fear, how he discussed about injustices, and how he discussed about faith and values. All those things, once you read the book, you understand was and how he really wanted all of us as Zambian youths, as Zambians, to follow his steps and the values that he believed in that can build the country to move. And the other literature that I read that talked so nice about Kaunda is the book of and Magande. Yeah, he has also described him very well together with the late, is it Sudanese or something like that?
Yeah.
Zambia 50. Yeah, when you read, you understand what vision and what powerful man KK was and what he believed in terms of us as the citizens of Zambia to enjoy and have, and what value was put in on each and every citizen that was born in Zambia. And me being from the University of Zambia, being educated from the University of Zambia, the school he cherished most, I think we had a lot of memories and benefits that we try to cherish, all of us who have passed through the University of Zambia, because Kaunda had to put education to be the first priority than any other thing. Even in all the books that you have read about KK, education has been put as the first priority for him because he believed in educating the Zambian community. Thank you.
If there's any book, one book Zambians can buy and remember KK is that Letter to My Children book.
Right.
Buy it, keep it, read it. It's just a pity that you can't find some of his books on humanism, although it was criticized, but read those things. Get that book, Letter to My Children, just keep it and read it and read it and hand it over to your children. If there's one book you should keep, that is the one you should keep.
It's a small one, General, this one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very beautiful book.
Yeah.
I've read that. I've read that book more than 100 times, Jerome.
Yeah.
So it's an important book.
Yeah.
And I think the message of education. That's why he fought hard in 1966 with his colleagues to build the University of Zambia. And for Zambians who don't know, we built that university from scratch. People were contributing chickens. Some of them were digging foundation because at independence we only had 100 graduates.
Right.
So education was critical and key to Kaunda's philosophy.
Yeah, my grandfather told me. And General, the other thing that I need to mention here is that I love the way Kaunda has to say, for him, once he's sick, he needs to be seen by the Zambian doctors and by the Zambian health sector. And even dying, look, he has died in our hospital, just at Minasoko. If it's maybe other people would have dying somewhere else, we have heard how some other past presidents have died somewhere else. But Kaunda maintained and believed that the Zambian health sector is the best, and he has shown it to say, even him, once he gets sick, he goes to those hospitals, and dying, he has died in our hospital, which is very, very encouraging, especially to me, who's the health worker. So it's very sad.
Thank you, Jerome, for sharing with us your experience and your story of Kenneth Kaunda. I'm going to now bring in Mumbi. Mumbi.
Good evening, Mumbi. And where are you
Good
calling us from,
evening,
Mumbi?
Mr. Mosha.
Good evening.
Good
Kenneth
evening.
Kaunda.
I'm calling you from Lusaka, Zambia. Mr. Musha, I didn't get your question, but I heard you call my name as you were speaking, so I said, let me take myself.
Yeah, the question, Mumbi, is what are you feeling? What is your feeling today about the death of Dr. Kaunda? And what do you remember about Kaunda? I know
Okay.
you might be young, you might probably be young that you don't remember. What comes into your mind about Dr. Kaunda, especially his death today?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll give my response from a young person's point of view, as well as from an activist point of view. I have found myself in a time when young people are experiencing some of the greatest injustices that a country has ever experienced, at least our generation. I know that the older generation has got its own experiences of injustices, but for me as a young person and as an activist who is fighting certain injustices with other young people, we find ourselves at a time when the older generation is telling us stories of the privileges that they had. I remember having an interesting conversation with one of the fellow senior citizens, a well-learned counsel, who says, when we were growing up, we didn't have everything, but we were privileged. So in my thought, I was thinking, privileged. The gentleman must have come from a rich family or something. And he said, my privilege was that the only competition that we were going to have as members of the society was the brain. When you are going to school and you're doing what you're doing, the only competition that was there was the brain, because the time itself was so privileged. They were given everything for free. School was for everyone. We didn't have to fight. And I'm glad that you Mr. Chipakupaku, you're mentioning something very important, where you have to remind us that even the biggest university that we have was built from scratch, and people had to contribute chickens. For someone it may be a joke, but for a young person like me, I'm seeing the dedication that a country had, with a leader that saw to it that each and every human being had a fair share of what society should give them. And if they should be given an injustice, it should be given to them by themselves. And the only competition they should have should be in the mind and nothing else. And that really amazes me. And thinking about that, and because I'm a firm believer in social justice, I'm a firm believer in equality, and looking at what has happened today, I think it leaves a very deep cut. The world is crying, not because a leader living for the longest time has died, but they are crying because there is a gap that has been left in the spectrum of humanity. You can feel that there is one light that has gone off in our environment, and we are hoping heaven lights it back to us. Of course, KK has got many stories, both the good and the bad, that young people like myself learn from. We look at the history, we look at their persistence, we look at the failures that our country went through during his leadership. But we still feel proud, because to some extent, there was a man that was ready to see the country move together at the same time. I think the story of his falling short is a story of another day, and it has its own backing of why we reached that point. But we must appreciate a man that did not only protect the Zambian people, but protected the continent. It's a privilege and a golden crown that we must wear, because we protected entire Africa, not just Zambians. You can see how the rest of Africa is coming to us. They can feel the pain, and they're carrying it with us, and they're saying, our friends have lost someone, and this someone is not a loss of their own, but it's a continental loss that we must all carry, and be with them. um I must also complain about the way this whole situation of KK has been handled by the Zambian team that is supposed to be spearheading this conversation. What we're experiencing right now is a case where, in a family, the father dies, the children are crying because they are helpless, and then the person who's supposed to be there, the uncles and everyone else, doesn't show up. So the neighbor now decides to ukfumie fipe. They remove the chairs, the vambok taken kuni, because the owners don't look serious. And that's very painful, because that's a scar that's going to remain on this young generation. I am totally against the idea of Mr. Miti being the one to tell us, look, we're supposed to teach a certain message to this generation that is coming up, and that is, we have leaders that stand up for us and give us the confidence that we will walk through this painful period with courage, and we shall be walking with the people. To have someone who has the power and must have the bigger responsibility of coming and speaking to the people and telling us, guys, we have lost our gallant soldier, be somewhere else, I think that does not deserve any excuse. I think for today it was going to be okay to just neglect the podium, neglect the unnecessary attention, or where's the stage, where's the suit. Someone needed to stand up wherever they were, because they're a leader of a country, and speak to the people and inform us that our soldier has fallen. It's a very sad sight. Like I have said, I don't know what example we've left to this generation, because what we've just shown is that we can all scatter around and it can still work out as long as there is someone. Where is the vice president? She was one of the people in the struggle. She should have stood up and said, my people, my fellow soldier has fallen, to give confidence to the people themselves, to give confidence to the coming generation that as a country we can still have order, we can still respect the people that shed their blood. We thank God that they reached this time, but we can still have people that can stand up and still maintain the dignity and humanity and respect of people that put their lives on the rail for us. And I think that's my contribution for tonight. And I hope a lot of Zambian young people learn from it. I'm totally against it. The idea of a short post. I feel there's a lot of insults that have been given to this powerful man, where a president writes a message on his social media to say, I have just learned and it saddens me. It feels like we are crying on our own. It feels like we're crying on our own. Yes, right now I may seem emotional. It's impossible for me not to be emotional, because I want to be consoled by my leaders, with my people. But if the biggest number in the equation misses, it's impossible for you to balance it. And that's what's happening to our country right now. The people are having mixed feelings. It's impossible to want to say, oh, let's not be political, but there's nothing to politic about that behavior. It's indecent and an injustice to the fight of freedom. It's impossible. For once, he would have sat in the car, even just a random live video, for him to be the ones to announce. We can't have pages, social media, announcing the death of such a world soldier. Very, very embarrassing. It's an assault to our freedom. It's an assault to our democracy. And I hope in the coming years we will get to see better leaders that will be able to stand and know how to console the people in times like these.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mumbi. It's hard for me. When I read that statement, it was hard. It was really hard, because I expected wherever Dr. I don't like calling him Dr. Lungu. Wherever Mr. Lungu was, he had a camera there. He had a ZNBC camera which could have transmitted live to the studio. It was only going to take about 5 minutes to officially announce the death of our father of nation. And for that, I was really, really upset. And I actually posted something to say, where's your leadership, Mr. Lungu? Where's your leadership? Because that's not leadership. So thank you so much, Mumbi. I just hope and pray that the Zambian people are seeing that we can do better. We can do better. We deserve
Definitely.
better.
We can definitely do better. We pray for a generation that will be ready to take up better leadership than what we are seeing. But we are positive in the spirit of KK that we are going to see greater. We have learned so much from him, and we know that we're going to use it to become better than what we are seeing and experiencing right now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mumbi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Over to you, Munsha.
Mr. Nkwilimba.
Hello, good evening.
Kenneth David Kaunda has left us.
Oh, it's so sad. It's such a sad day. You know, I just want to remember him, you know, for what he was. I had about 5 opportunities to meet him. The first one was when I was graduating at the University of Zambia in 1981. You know, we shook hands. And then I met him when I went, I taught at Kasama Girls and Kenneth Kaunda before then. In fact, my first posting was Kenneth Kaunda in Chinsali, where I taught for about 2 years. And while I was there, he visited the school twice. You know, each time he was on holiday at Luga Mission, Shambhala Kale Farm. You know, he would come to Kenneth Kaunda Secondary School as well. You know, his leadership was quite amazing. You know, when he visited the school at one time, the school had offered him, you know, a head of a cow, just as a gift for visiting the school. And the man struggled to accept that gift. He didn't want to accept it. But the pupils, you know, they made a lot of noise. They wanted him to receive the gift, you know. But he finally said, "Okay, I'll receive the gift, but take it to the hospital so that patients can have beef." You know, I was impressed by that kind of leadership. Others would want to accumulate as much as they want to themselves, but he was such a public, you know, servant. And, you know, I was just, you know, I was encouraged to see that kind of leadership in him. He did not want to be rewarded for what he was doing as president of the country. He knew he was providing a service, and he didn't want to take advantage of, you know, what the school was producing from their production unit. But not to disappoint the pupils, he accepted the gift, but then he passed on to the patients at Chinsali District Hospital. Yeah, that's, I remember. And then, you know, something very close to my family. I remember, in fact, just a few weeks ago, a few days ago, when I heard that he was admitted, I was saying, I wish I could have an opportunity to go and see him and just thank him for one act he did one act of kindness he did to our family. There was a politician by the name of Job Mayanda. Job Mayanda is my cousin. Our parents, our fathers were brothers. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Job Mayanda at one time was a governor, you know, in I think at headquarters UNIP. But he fell ill at one point. You know, he had a problem with the kidney. And President Kaunda, you know, gave him a position as first secretary at the High Commission in the UK, so that he could be attended to while he was there. And that's something as a family we are thankful. And I wish I had an opportunity to go and just say to him, thank you for that act of kindness that you did to, you know, for us. I remember him as a great person, as a great man. Mm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nkwilimba, I traveled with KK many times where he was receiving these gifts. That was his style. I remember going to different parts of the country and even outside the country with KK. That was his style. Kaunda took things. It was hard for him to receive things, but he would pass them over to the right people who needed these things. So thank you so much, Nkwilimba. for bringing up that very rare sign of leadership. It's not a selfish leadership we're seeing these days. That is one person who didn't care about material things. Now, Musha, we've got a lot of young people tonight. Some of them had never met Kaunda. I want to start with Kasololo. I know probably you must have met the Kaunda. What is one thing which you want to remember KK for, or how are you feeling tonight?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Munsha and Bachipaku. To be honest with you, you are giving us an opportunity to mourn. You see, as a young man, like I mentioned on this broadcast some time back, we were living in Botswana. And one time the embassy had a function there because KK had visited. That was the first time. All my life in Zambia, we just used to see him on TV, but to actually shake his hand and see him closely. And I remember my mother took those pictures. You see, KK had a certain presence. And I just want to say something. As I was growing up and becoming more political, then came the wave of the MMD in 1991. In my house, I remember my father was UNIP, and he said to me, you are MMD, I'm UNIP, you have no idea what KK has done to us. We would not even be here in Botswana if it wasn't for KK. I went to school because of KK. I did all these things because of KK. That thing kept in my mind. And to be honest with you, when I saw what happened, especially after after UNIP left and MMD came, the way the old man was treated, I remembered my father's words. I just said, look, whatever it may be, we are supposed to have a certain deep-seated respect. Whatever may have happened, but we are supposed to have a deep-seated respect. Because KK is an icon. You cannot replace what he did for us. And we need to have that kind of treatment. And I must concur with Umkashana Mumbi. Mumbi is the famous girl who that lady spoke for during that Bhutan conference. And then she was supposed to speak, and then some guy was shutting her down, and then the Princess Mumbi as well spoke.
Right.
That is the Mumbi there. She's not Princess Mumbi, but there's a Princess Mumbi who spoke. And that is how this Mumbi lady, we got to know her. Anyway, I must concur with her. What has happened today, it burns my heart. I was having a conversation with someone today, and I didn't know I was shouting. They had to tell me, look, you're shouting. I said, look, I'm infuriated. My father is turning in his grave to see this person he valued so highly being treated like this. We must temuchinshiyo na bakatekanga chako batibale mfwa bakalamba besu balungu. I mean, if I met Balungu, or if anything was to happen to Balungu, I would not allow people to treat Balungu in such a manner, because Balungu will take up on a very child. And therefore, we just have that, just that respect that he needs. Let us give, if Baramaposa, ever announce that, President Botswana, but announce that, why honestly should we let the Secretary of Cabinet ever land? I mean, let's just have that decency. No fiat. Oh, but let's give him respect, despite whatever differences we may have. I don't agree with Balungu. I would love him to be replaced, but I would not want him to be disrespected. No. So let's also give chance to such an icon to be respected. I think studio.
Castorolo, thank you so much. Some of us will always use the same words. I'm from a very poor family. I am what I am today because of KK. So thank you so much for those words, Castorolo. And let's move on to Timmy. Timmy, how are you feeling tonight? And what's your comment? How did you receive the news of the old man dying today?
First of all, Pepa and Comrade, my condolences to you because you've worked with Dr. Kaunda on several occasions and several on different matters. And to my boy, Comrade Moshas, I want to say, please take heart. It's not the easiest of things. We might have plans in our hearts, but it's the Lord's papers that always prevails. The news in the morning, first of all, before I dig any further, I thought of KK. And the thing that came to my mind was, so our senior president is 97, so which means he needs carers 24/7. That was my thought in the morning before I went into the vehicle. Now, I never had a chance to meet Dr. Kaunda. I aimed to meet him several times, but because of COVID, so I didn't have the chance to travel back to Zambia to have audience with him. So what was I doing most of the times to kind of like rekindle the surface? I've got pictures of him at number 10, way back in 1964-65, with Prime Minister Macmillan Harold. Then in 2019, I traveled to Bournemouth, where that guy is buried, Roland Welensik, because him and KK, together with Kamuzu Banda and the late Joshua Nkomo, they used to meet and deliberate over the independence struggle or the Passover from Northern Rhodesia to Zambia at the Lancaster House. So every time I'm in London, I'll go to Lancaster House just to rekindle the memory of what transpired way back. And my mission now, after I collected all this information, was like when I meet him, I would say, Mr. President, how was it you facing Welensik? Because you couldn't face him on the Northern Rhodesian soil at the time, but you'd meet him in Lancaster House in London, and Buckingham Palace is not very far. Those are the ambitions I had. Then in 2012, it came very near to me, but I didn't know he was here. I'm sure, Comrade Norman, you remember when you went to Honiton to mourn, there was a freedom fight. It wasn't a freedom fighter, but it was a Caucasian as a white person that helped with the Land Rover and other stuff. Then he died in Honiton. Then he went to play a piano as well. Went to that town as well. When I was working, I was like, Dr. Kaunda's been here, which means I'm here as well. And it made me so elated. Just being in a place where he was, to me, it was a massive, massive achievement, though I never met him in person. What is the message that I'm trying to bring across to you, my seniors? You know, Dr. Kaunda and other freedom fighters won an ultimate victory during the independence struggle. Our mission, more especially you, our senior, Comrade Norman, General Norman, please carry the mantra, the mantle, the legacy, and let's run with it. It shouldn't just die naturally. He's the president that would look up to right now and say, I want to be like him. Matter of fact, even a lot better than him. Why? Because he laid a foundation that is credible, that is impeccable, that is 100% pure like water. Not a tad. Like what we have right now is nothing to write home about. I pray that the incumbent could look at the legacy of Dr. Kaunda and say, let me just change for the better, for the sake of his legacy and for the sake of everybody at large. And I pray that his death will unite the nation, because that's the key thing. And this will be the end of, in terms of violence, in as far as politics is concerned. That's the legacy we can carry behind. I mean, we can perpetuate with. Thank you so much for the platform. I'm disheartened, but again, I rejoice. I thank God for the life that He gave him. I look back and say, Dr. Kaunda, thank you so much for your selfless service. By the grace of God, we carry on with the good works that you started. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Timmy. Over to you, Musha.
Wiseman and Brian. Wiseman.
Okay, let me go. Wiseman, you can go first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening to all the participants. General, good evening. I stand with Zambia, good evening. And good evening to my fellow youths in the program. First of all, Comrade Musha, for me, I think as a young person in Zambia, I think I managed to meet our gallant hero, Dr. KK. I went there to his house about 2 times, and I managed to mingle with him. And he's someone who educated me a lot, and I learned a lot from him. And actually, he's someone who inspired me even to join politics. For this, I think when I heard about his death, I was very touched. But I remember one word which he told me when I said at the time I visited him, he was sick, and I was trying to comfort him. Then he said, "No, a wise man, I've done my part. It is you to do your part. You have to do exactly what you have to do for you to see the Zambia you want." And from there, I said, "Okay, wow, this is something which was very educative. It was a small word, but which had a lot of meanings." And for that, I was trying to prove it, to understand why he said that. And today, I've seen why Dr. Kaunda told me such kind of a word. I've seen that the man had got independence for us, but we are not yet independent. We are still fighting for that independence for Zambia to be free. I was very heartbroken, Comrade Munsha, when I saw our Republican president posting a comment on Facebook, talking on Facebook, wishing Dr. Kaunda his soul rest in peace on Facebook. I was very up to now. I'm feeling like I even reached a point of breaking my TV when I was watching ZNBC, expecting to see Dr. Kaunda breaking news, just to see Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu flagging off the issue of maize. South Africa, all the SABICs they were showing Dr. Kaunda's death. Botswana, all the TV breaking news was Dr. Kenneth Kaunda's death. Here in Zambia, and I feel ashamed I'm even paying this so-called ZNBC my 5 kwacha. I think if I were aware of suing ZNBC, I can sue them for them to remove their channel on my decoder. I was very emotional and I was very touched. You know, I saw Ramaphosa announcing the death of Dr. Kaunda in South Africa. I saw the president of Botswana announcing, and it go further, declaring the 7 days national mourning. In Zambia, up to now, we don't know how many days will be the national mourning for KK. Up to now, we don't know. And as a young person, I'm still sitting and saying, I've got a president. I'm sorry, Comrade Munja. I think for me, I should, if I were the way of leaving Zambia, I could have said, okay, I can't keep this fire, watching someone destroying our country like this. I was expecting maybe the vice president to come on board, and they said Dr. Kaunda has died. The president, I think even me, even if my father is sick, I think in that condition where our hero was sick, I can't go to work. I have to attend to his sickness and to see what will come next. For our president to leave Lusaka, go and flag off maize, a commodity which is our daily thing, which even a minister, a PS can do. Our president leave our hero in that condition, and he goes there. I think it is something which is very, very disappointing. That up to now, I'm still mourning. I'm wishing Dr. Kaunda, wherever he has gone, let the soul of our hero rest in peace. And let me again use this platform, Comrade Musha, to appreciate Hakainde Hichilema for him banning all the campaign activities. And I wish Mr. Hakainde Hichilema can go further, go live on his page, address all the UPND member live, not on not on a Facebook type, live, address the nation, let him act. When a father is absent, we know he's absent, let the uncle take over. Let Hakainde show Valuru that this is the way it's supposed to be done. And all the opposition parties in Zambia, copy from what HH has done. Cancel all your political activities to show respect. What type of morals are you trying to put in us young ones who are trying to follow your steps? I think for me, Comrade Munja, thank you very much to bring this program. Thank you very much to honor our hero, and thank you very much to give us this platform for us to review our grievances. Otherwise, I'm now relieved since now I've spoken through your media. I'm very disappointed with Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu, Madam Inonge Wina, and the so-called PF government for what they have done to our hero. Thank you. We are following the program.
Wiseman, today is a day when I wanted to reserve my comments. I really wanted to reserve my comments because I'm mourning, and the people who know me know that I'm not in the right mood.
Yeah,
but what Mr. Lungu did today was a disgrace to our country. It's a complete disgrace. And if I had my way, I told the HH, if I had my way, I would disband the board of ZNBC immediately after it takes over. Get a proper board. Because that's a disgrace for our country. You know why Botswana has decided to give him 7 days? Why South Africa announced first? Because they value what this man did. They value what Zambia did. And he is a president in Kaoma, speeding up, and he didn't even care. He really, a president would have anticipated to say, this man is in the hospital. This is plan A, in case the man survives, in case he's okay. Don't travel outside Lusaka. But he didn't care. So that's what I'm saying. Today, I was not in a mood to say this, but, today it is actually what type of a leader Inonge Wina is. They don't care. If they can't care about Dr. Kaunda, do you really think they can care about me? Do you think they can care about Muncha? They couldn't.
Yeah.
No, they can't.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, this is a very difficult time and topic to handle. But I also had decided that I was not going to comment, but I was compelled because of the events, how they unfolded. So I'm here on my laptop, busy with work and stuff like that. Then I see on SABC breaking news, and they're saying Kaunda is dead. I don't believe. I'm like, no, let me go to ZNBC. I log in, my DSTV to ZNBC. I check there, I find there's an advert for PF. I go there, there's an advert for Savenda, what, all these things. I'm like, is this true? I go back, I check on Diamond TV, I find the story is running. I was like, so it's true. Before I could synthesize the information, I start receiving messages from people that are not Zambians, my fellow students in South Africa who knew or who know Kaunda. They have heard their president announce to say a gallant soldier has left us. Now, they ask me to say, but we've not seen anything, your president, on our TV or a report, of a similar figure to SABC or anything of that sort, confirming such. Is it true that he's dead? Like, unfortunately, it's true. Our gallant soldier is gone. Right now, as I speak, I've tried to go on our National Broadcasting Corporation. They have not said anything. So really, it just shows, like my fellow youth have said, that as a country, we really need to be serious. And, they say a prophet is not appreciated in his own, but that is not supposed to be the case. This is the person who's, brought us our political freedom that we having, the democracy that we're having, like, he made sure that we have the background, the foundations. Now, coming to the things that I would like to remember, Kaunda, I was not there during his reign, but I've read and I've seen a lot of articles about him. One of the things that I'll greatly remember is the University of Zambia. For example, Jerome has it nice elaborated, like, you know, when you go to the University of Zambia. When we went to the University of Zambia, we went at a time when things had really dilapidated. You know, our lecturers would tell us how their time used to be in the Kaunda days. When you cross passing going to the veterinary hostels where I was staying, you would pass through the dining hall. It was a white horse by then. There was nothing there. But so you ask this building, which is, you know, just left, it's called a dining hall. What used to happen here? They explained to say, during Kaunda time, as students, we never had time to cook. Ours was to go in the library, study, and do our work. When you are hungry, you go to the dining hall and eat. Even in the rooms, these rooms you are sharing 4-4, one room, a 4x4, a 2x2 square room, you are 4 of you. We used to be only one person, the whole room, not the room where you are sharing in between. You put a Berlin wall, then this side there are 3 people, 4 people, this side 4 people. No, there's only used to be one person, and you just come from home with nothing. You go there, you find the blankets, you know, everything right there. So I thought to myself, really, wow, life must really have been better in Kaunda's days. Now we are advancing. As we are advancing, population is growing. People are saying, no, due to population growth, things are going bad. But it's the opposite. In economics, human power, population, as the more people increase, that's the more, you know, you have resources, because the more people there are, the more resources you need to generate from those people. So the fact that we are more people now, the University of Zambia should have been even better than it was previously. So it shows you to say the governance system was better then than it is now. So now it's very imperative that we look back and appreciate this man for these things, because our parents went to school free of charge to the university. Right now, people are failing to just sit for exams because they don't have that 75% that they have to pay, you know, to write exams at the university. So I was like, okay, they're saying, just a minute before I conclude, they're saying the education system is, because we are too many, the population is growing. And I came to South Africa to do my education, and I saw to say the things that they were talking about Kaunda is exactly what is happening. You find that accommodation, someone is just a lot, but there are over 50 million here. But the education, as we were being told the way it used to be at the University of Zambia, that's the current situation right now in other countries. So now I ask myself, where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? So it's really a very sad story. Yeah.
General, I know you've. Thank you, Brian Pande, for sharing your story. General, I know you've had your thoughts as well. And my post, I also posted on what happened in Lusaka today and the reaction of our current government. It is not normal. No matter how much you try to explain it, this is not normal. This is not the normal way to handle the passing of your founding president. And there is this, what we are being asked to say, why are you being political? We are actually not being political. This is just common sense. No politics, just common sense. Not very complicated common sense, General. Just common human decency and common sense. What does common sense tell us? Kenneth Kaunda is the founder of our country. One of the, of course, with his friends. And even this statement is controversial, but with his friends. He is one of the most visible symbols, not only of Zambia, but of Southern Africa. This person dies during the day. And some are telling us that this death could be announced by the secretary to cabinet. A civil servant comes up, senior civil servant walks up and reads a speech on ZNBC. That is not right. Now,
No.
I am not trying to be political. If I wanted to be political, I would. We are extremely political. This is common sense. Some are saying it's tradition, we shouldn't talk about this because we are mourning and everything. But they are not telling the chief of our state that he should have been traditional and gone ahead to speak to the people, to announce the passing of Kenneth Kaunda, to calm the nation down. He did not do that. His vice president did not do. The national broadcaster did not do that. If anyone thinks that this is appropriate, I'm sorry. I don't think this is the normal way of doing anything.
Musha, Mr. Lungu is supposed to be the commander-in-chief and the mourner-in-chief of our country.
Yes.
He's supposed to be leading us into war if we're fighting. He's supposed to be leading us to mourn if we have a tragedy like the situation in which we are in today. This is the founding father of our country with many of his friends. If Lungu was like me, who had met most of these people and saw how simply they lived, I think he would have had respect. I don't think he had the chance. If he had the chance to meet Mainda Chona, if he had the chance to meet Grey Zulu, if he had the chance to meet Mkombwe, sit down with Mkombwe to hear Mungoni Liso, Kamanga,
General.
he would have given this man respect.
General, there is this young lady, Mumbi, who was telling us she never lived to meet all those people. But Mumbi is saying what she has seen is a disgrace.
Complete disgrace. It's a complete disgrace. For me, I was really, to be very honest with you, Musha, and our listeners, was very upset. I was really, really, really upset. And I almost went live. But I said, no, I think we've welcome to TV, let's come live. Because if I was going live that time, I would have said very bad things. Because I had spoken to Panji, I tried to comfort Panji, I tried to comfort everybody, and to hear that the president was in Kaoma talking about nothing but maize. A president is briefed every day. One of the things he's briefed about is the security situation in the country. The second thing is briefed about is what is likely to happen. And KK should have been top of that list today, even yesterday. And he would have been told, Mr. President, this is the treatment we've given to the old man. This is the situation. And I think you stand by. That's what a leader does. Mr. Lungu didn't care. I don't even think he wanted to know what KK situation was. Because if he wanted to care, he would have never traveled. But he didn't. And I'm saying to you, Zambian, now you know what type of a president you have. Now you know that he doesn't care about Zambians, he doesn't care about anybody, and he doesn't care about Kaunda. And for us who were brought up by Kaunda, this is the biggest insult on the freedom fighters.
Can I
Say
just
something?
We have to understand and just accept the fact that we have an administration currently that does not value what the republic is. If being Patriotic Front was a nationality, that would be their nationality. They don't respect the Republic of Zambia and what it means to be a Zambian. Right. Case in point, we have their party members going around with the American flag, calling themselves Americans. They know nothing about the founding and the purpose of this republic. And that goes for every single Patriotic Front member that I can think of. If they know about the value of our republic, they've forgotten it. But I just believe that you're seeing an administration that values their party so much. Their party is the republic. Their party is the nationality. They are not Zambians. They're Patriotic Front. And that's just the truth. We just have to, that's just something that I have just had to come to grips with, that they do not value anything that has to do with the Republic of Zambia. Kenneth Kaunda, in an interview, he said, when we got independent, there were 73 tribes, but then he said, which were indigenous. But then he also said that there were other tribes, which were the Pakistanis, the Indians, the British, the Scottish. And he said one Zambia, one nation motto is what holds us together as a republic. And he said 3 things happen when you deviate from one Zambia, one nation. He said chaos, destruction, and death to thousands. And he was very serious when he said that.
Right.
And that's something that is happening right now.
That's why they were playing the advert of peer instead of showing Keke's face or one of his speeches. One of the best speeches he delivered was the 1968 speech trying to take over the economy and turn it to nationalize our economy. And why? They should have been playing such thing, but they were playing the advert of That's how disgraceful Mr. Lungu was. Over to you, Tumuja.
General, I'm now going to prompt up this song, and I hope that your vocal cords are in good order, so that we can pay the best tribute that we can ever to Kenneth David Kaunda. Vamos in the team.
One Zambia! One Zambia!
One nation!
One Zambia!
One nation!
One nation! One people! Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Comrades, I would like you to buy the letter to my children. Those of you who have got a chance, dig out KK's humanism and why he said go back to the land. I would like you to go deep to ZNBC and ask for his speeches. His speeches had a meaning, okay? Listen to KK in 1979 when we hosted the Commonwealth Conference, which led to the independence of Zimbabwe. Listen to that speech. Listen to that speech before the dance with the Queen, which led to the independence of Zimbabwe. Listen to the speech KK gave in 1974 when Portugal handed over Mozambique, and KK sent us to Mozambique to go and help Mozambique. Listen to that speech.
All right.
Listen to that speech when KK was sent to Mkoweko. He never got upset, but he came out and said, look, I've done nothing. This is my country. I'm not going to Malawi. And I'm glad he has died in Zambia. That is the man who liberated our country, guys. I respect him for that.
Thank you, General. Mr. Muncha. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much
for everything.
Thank you so much for everybody. Thank you so much for participating. And let's pray for KK's family. Let's pray for the firstborn to keep the legacy of the old man going, guys. Let's keep it.
Thank you. God bless you. Good night. Good night.
Thank you.